Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different with our AI daily deep dive.
Oh,
Yeah, what you're about to hear, the research, the writing, the whole shebang was generated entirely by AI.
really? The whole script?
Yep. We fed the machine the headlines, and it synthesized the top 5 AI news stories making waves right now, Sunday, May 18th, 2025. So let's just get straight to it.
Okay, sounds good. Let's kick things off. First up, it seems we're heading to the UK.
That's right. Sir Elton John has voiced some, pretty strong objections to the government's proposed changes regarding AI copyright.
Strong's putting it mildly, sounds like. He's calling the plans theft.
Yeah, theft and thievery on a high scale. He's really emphasizing his worry about how this will hit younger artists.
Right, their income, their legacy.
Exactly. And he's also suggesting the government's priorities seem to be, leaning towards benefiting major American tech companies over the UK's own creative sector. And it even sounds like legal action might be on the table.
Wow. So what's the core issue here? What exactly did the government propose, or maybe not propose?
Well, what's really at the heart of this is the government's decision to reject a proposal. It came from the House of Lords.
Okay.
And this proposal would have required AI companies to disclose any copyrighted material used when they train their AI models.
Ah, the transparency piece.
Yeah.
So the Lords wanted it mandatory.
They did. The Lords actually voted for it, but then the House of Commons rejected it. And that seems to be the key point of contention for Sir Elton and, many others.
Right, and you mentioned others are concerned too.
Yeah, it's not just Sir Elton. Playwright James Graham, Tom Keel from UK Music. They've basically echoed these worries, also pointing to this apparent favoring of Silicon Valley and, the potential negative impact on the UK music industry. There's a real sense the creative community feels kind of undervalued.
Okay, so what's the government saying in response to all this?
Well, the government, for its part, has stated that they are currently in a consultation period. They're looking at how to balance the interests of AI developers with those of creators.
Trying to find a middle ground, supposedly.
Right. They're stressing that they won't make any copyright changes unless they can see a clear benefit for creators. And they've also mentioned plans for, a report and an economic impact assessment to explore it all further.
So the official line is, we're still looking into it.
Pretty much. While the criticism is sharp, the government maintains they are considering all sides.
Got it. Okay, so moving on from copyright battles. What's next?
Okay, let's pivot now to a look at the tech landscape itself. There's an analysis suggesting Google is in a very strong position to lead the way in the AI race.
Ah, Google. Always a major player.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind that? Why them specifically?
Well, the rationale is quite compelling. A significant factor seems to be Google's just substantial investments in AI infrastructure.
Okay, money talks. How substantial are we talking?
They're projecting a capital expenditure of $75 billion in 2025.
75 billion. Wow.
Yeah, and that's a notable increase from the previous year's $52.5 billion. This investment is primarily focused on expanding their data centers, developing their own custom AI chips.
Their tensor chips, yeah.
Right, and of course, continuing the advancement of their Gemini AI models. That level of financial commitment really underscores their focus, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
But it's not just about spending money, is it? There must be more to it.
No, you're right. The analysis also highlights Google's vertically integrated ecosystem as a major advantage.
Vertically integrated. Okay, break that down. What does that actually mean in practice?
Think of it like this. Because Google designs both the physical hardware, the chips, the servers, and the software, like the AI models themselves, they can ensure everything works together incredibly efficiently. It's like Apple controlling its hardware and software.
Ah, okay. So seamless integration.
Exactly. This tight integration from their search engine to Google Cloud, even their Pixel phones, allows for optimized performance and, easier AI implementation across all their different platforms.
This makes sense. Control the whole stack, basically.
Precisely. And Google's reach is just so broad, isn't it? Their diverse product portfolio must also be a huge factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They can plug these AI advancements into so many places. Search, advertising, obviously.
Right.
And you mentioned Google Cloud. That's been growing fast, hasn't it?
It has. The analysis notes a 28% year-over-year revenue increase in Q1 2025, hitting $12.3 billion. And AI services are a big part of that growth.
Plus, their actual AI models, the Gemini series, are performing well.
Apparently so. The analysis mentions superior performance in coding and reasoning benchmarks compared to some competitors.
Okay.
And then you add in strategic collaborations like their partnership with Nvidia for GPUs
Crucial hardware.
and their ongoing efforts to acquire top AI talent and resources. It all paints a pretty strong picture.
So yeah, while the competition is obviously intense, you've got Microsoft, OpenAI, Anthropic, others. This analysis suggests Google's combination of investment, integration, and breadth give them a really solid foundation. A good shot at leading.
Seems like it. Okay, let's switch gears now. A different kind of story, one that gives a real-world look at AI's impact on, well, actual jobs. We're looking at Klarna, the fintech company.
Yes, Klarna. This is a fascinating case study, actually. So back in 2023, they made a pretty big move.
Which was?
They replaced around 700 customer service employees with an AI chatbot. It was based on OpenAI's technology.
700 people. Wow. And the goal was, presumably, cost-cutting and efficiency.
Exactly the usual suspects: reduce costs, increase efficiency. And, initially there were reports suggesting improvements, faster response times, better efficiency metrics, that kind of thing.
I sense a but coming.
Well, yeah, it seems that initial picture didn't quite hold up, did it? Because now we're hearing that the CEO, Sebastian Siemiatkowski, is looking to bring back more human interaction.
Really? A reversal? What happened?
The key issue, it seems, was a drop in the quality of customer service. The AI could handle the simple stuff, the routine queries, fine.
Okay.
But it struggled with more complex or, emotionally charged situations. Customers got frustrated with the lack of nuance, the lack of empathy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sometimes you just need to talk to a person.
Exactly. And Siemiatkowski himself apparently acknowledged that the focus on cost-cutting had become maybe too dominant. It ended up hurting the actual service quality for their customers.
That's quite an admission from a CEO. So what are they doing now? Are they just hiring everyone back?
Not exactly hiring everyone back wholesale, but they've started a pilot program. They're hiring remote customer service agents, students, people in rural areas perhaps, to provide on-demand support.
Ah, so a hybrid model.
That seems to be the aim. Blending the AI's efficiency for simple things with the problem-solving and empathy of human agents for the trickier stuff. Siemiatkowski apparently emphasized how critical it is to always give customers the option to talk to a real person.
Both for the customer and, frankly, for Klarna's brand reputation, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, this is all happening against a backdrop of some serious financial ups and downs for Klarna, right?
Yeah, their valuation went on a wild ride. Peaked super high, then dropped dramatically, though it's recovered somewhat now.
Exactly. They peaked at like $45.6 billion in 2021, crashed to $6.7 billion in 2022, and now they're back over $15 billion in 2025. They also paused their IPO plans, cut staff. So this customer service experiment happened amidst all that turbulence.
It really highlights the trade-offs, doesn't it?
Yeah.
AI can save money, but maybe not if it drives customers away.
Precisely. And Klarna isn't abandoning AI entirely. They're still using it elsewhere, like for a digital financial assistant. But this customer service experience is a real lesson in needing that careful balance between automation and human touch.
Definitely. AI isn't always the silver bullet. Okay, moving on. Let's touch on something potentially more, well, concerning. The rise of AI-generated misinformation.
Yeah, this is a big one. Nicholas Carr wrote about it in Behavioral Scientist, looking at the implications when AI can create lies that are, frankly, more compelling than the truth sometimes.
More compelling than the truth. That's a scary thought. How does he frame this? Is it entirely new?
He starts by saying manipulating images and info isn't new. Obviously, he gives historical examples like doctored photos of Lincoln.
Right. Propaganda's been around forever.
Exactly. But what's different now is the scale and the sophistication that AI brings. We have tools like Midjourney, DLE, and others that make creating highly realistic fake images, videos, deepfakes incredibly easy and accessible.
Democratized manipulation almost.
Kind of. And a key point Carr makes is that unlike, say, editing a real photo, AI can generate something completely novel. There's no original real thing to compare it against, which makes detection much, much harder.
And we're already seeing this cause problems, right?
Oh, definitely. Carr points to examples like those super realistic but fake Tom Cruise videos on TikTok a few years back that fooled a lot of people.
Oh, I remember those. Creepy.
Yeah. And then there's the darker side, like the rise of sexually explicit deepfakes targeting celebrities, which happened more recently. But maybe even more worrying are the political implications. Carr highlights things like AI-generated audio used to mimic a candidate in the Chicago mayoral election. A
Wow.
deepfake robocall impersonating President Biden in the New Hampshire primaries. Even the Republican National Committee using AI to create a dystopian ad.
So it's actively being used to try and influence voters and public opinion?
It seems so. And Carr argues it's not just about being fooled by one specific fake, it's the broader psychological impact.
What does he mean by that?
Well, constantly being bombarded with convincing fakes can just erode trust in everything. You start becoming skeptical of all information, finding it harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not.
A general breakdown of trust.
Exactly. And he mentions the illusory truth effect. That's the idea that the more you hear something, even if it's false, the more likely you are to believe it's true. AI, which can generate and spread content so quickly and widely, just pours gasoline on that fire.
And actually fighting this sounds incredibly difficult.
It really is. Deepfake technology is getting better all the time, making detection a constant arms race. Plus, tracing the origin of AI-generated content can be really tough. Regulation struggles to keep up with the pace of the tech.
So what's the takeaway? Are we doomed to a future of uncertainty?
Carr doesn't offer easy answers, but he stresses the urgent need for a few things. Much greater public awareness about this stuff, better tools for detecting fakes, and clear ethical guidelines for developing and using AI. Basically, we need to act fast to prevent a future where we just can't trust anything we see or hear online.
A sobering, but yeah, incredibly important warning. Okay, let's shift to our final story for today. This one offers maybe a more constructive view on AI development. It's from John Werner in Forbes, outlining what he calls AI's magic cycle.
Right, Werner's concept. It's actually a pretty neat way to think about how AI innovation happens. He describes it as this iterative cycle with several key stages.
Okay, like steps in a process.
Yeah, basically. It starts with inspiration and ideation. That's identifying a problem or an opportunity where AI could help.
Makes sense. Find a use case.
Exactly. Then comes development and experimentation. This is where you actually build and refine the AI models, the prototypes.
The building phase.
Right. Then implementation and deployment, putting the AI to work in the real world, integrating it into applications.
Getting it out there.
And then, crucially, feedback and learning. This is where the AI improves based on how it performs in the real world, the data it gathers, the interactions with users.
So it learns on the job, essentially.
Kinda, yeah. And finally, scaling and transformation. Successful AI applications get rolled out more broadly, and often using the AI reveals new problems or opportunities, which kicks off the whole cycle again.
Ah, so it loops back. Inspiration, build, deploy, learn, scale, find new inspiration.
Precisely. Werner's point is that this continuous iteration, this constant improvement loop, is absolutely vital for AI to actually work well and reach its potential. Each stage feeds the next.
It's not a one-and-done thing.
Not at all.
Yeah,
It's dynamic.
But he gives examples of this cycle in action.
Yeah, he points to various industries. In healthcare, AI systems are constantly learning from new patient data to get better at diagnostics or suggesting treatments.
Okay.
In finance, fraud detection algorithms get refined constantly based on the latest transaction patterns.
Right, always adapting.
In education, personalized learning platforms adjust based on how students are actually doing. Manufacturing uses it for predictive maintenance, learning from machine data to predict failures.
Yeah.
You get the idea.
Yeah, it applies across the board. So this iterative approach is really the engine driving AI's impact.
That's Werner's argument. Of course, he also acknowledges the challenges we always talk about: data, privacy, ethics, transparency, bias. Those are still huge considerations within this cycle.
Sure.
But his main point is that embracing this continuous magic cycle of development, learning, and scaling is the key to really harnessing AI's power for innovation and, well, transformation.
A more optimistic note to end on, perhaps. So there you have it, a quick dive into 5 quite different AI stories making headlines today.
Yeah, quite a range. From Sir Elton John's copyright fight
To Google's potential dominance in the AI race.
Klarna learning hard lessons about AI and customer service.
The very real worries about AI-driven misinformation.
And finally, this idea of the iterative cycle driving AI innovation forward.
It definitely gives you, the listener, a lot to chew on regarding just how fast AI is moving and how widely it's impacting things.
Absolutely. We're thinking about how these trends might touch your own life or work.
Indeed. We encourage you to keep exploring these topics. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.